Dependency injection is one key concept when it comes to software development. So when you are working on application and then you have services or you have a certain method that you want to make it available for another service, dependency injection helps you to do this in easy step. And in ASP.NET or in .NET, we have some dependency, or we have a way of register certain services so that it will be available in our application. So maybe you have been working with something like AddScoped, AddTransient, or AddSingleton, but you do not understand how this work under the hood. In this video, we are going to learn how this thing works and when to use when to choose one over the other. So maybe in a certain scenario, AddScoped will help. In a certain scenario, AddTransient will help. In a certain scenario, AddSingleton will help. So I'm going to show you how this one works, and when you register it, how it instantiate. So welcome to the video, and then if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe so that, and then don't forget to hit the notification button so that you won't miss our upcoming content. So let's get started. To get started, what I have here is ASP.NET Core Web API, which is a simple web API we have in here. There is nothing serious. And then in our program.cs, you can see we have just the default configuration in here. We have not added any swagger or anything in here. So what I'm going to do right now is that we are going to add some kind of interfaces and services. So the goal here is to learn how scope work, how Singleton work, and how AddTransient work. So to do that, we are going to create in some kind of application that will generate random number, or it generates random GUI or timestamp or something like that, to see how when you register these things, how it's normally instantiate. So to do that, I'm going to create a new folder right here, and I'm going to say that this is going to be service. So we are going to create something here called service, and then let's create a simple stuff like interface. So we're gonna have, this is using any format, but just to have some kind of interface. So we have interface. This is all we need. We already have our controller here, which we are going to use. So the next thing that we need to do is that I want us to create some kind of GUI. So let's create this interface right here. So we have this interface of GUI generator service, which means that it's going to generate some kind of GUI number for us. So GUI IDs for us. So let's go and make sure that this is the interface, and then you see that GUI, and then you see that generate or get GUI or something like that. Generate GUI is nice. Let's go and also do random number. So we're also going to generate random numbers. So let's add that interface too. Let's select this one, make sure this is an interface. We're going to say that random number service. So this is also going to generate some kind of random number. So we say hint get random number. So the next thing we want to do is that we want to also create another interface called timestamp. So it means that we're also going to generate timestamp right here to see how these services work, or how this dependency works. So we're going to say the datetime right here. So datetime, and then what I'm saying is that get. So we see that get timestamp. So get timestamp. So let's see time. Okay, timestamp right here. Okay, and that is what we want to get. So make sure that this is also interface. So this is an interface, and the last interface we are going to create is user season service. So this thing that we are going to do is to help you to understand when you register something with Scope, how does it work? When you register something with AddTransient, how does it work? So let's do this one too as an interface. So this is an interface, and it says string right here, and we say that get user ID. So or we can say that get user season ID. So or sessions ID, get user sessions ID right here. Okay, good. Get user session ID, right? So this is very good. So we have this. Now let's go ahead and create our services. So the first service that we want to create is where we want to generate the GUI. So the GUI generator service, let's go ahead and do that. So let's go to our service here, create a new class, and say that GUI generator service. So this is what we want to have, and it's going to inject the GUI service interface. And then what we want to do is to implement this interface right here. So what I'm going to do in here is going to be very simple. So what we are doing is that let's delete all these things, and I'm going to say that public right here, and you see that GUI, and then we are saying that the interface that we have in here, we can go in here and see that this is the interface we created. So we can copy that so that you get it at hand. So public GUI here, and then what we are going to say is that, because basically we want to generate kind of random GUI IDs, let's say GUI numbers or something like that, and that is it. Let's also work on the random number service. So this is also helping us to generate some kind of random numbers, and this is gonna fit in perfect example of how to demonstrate this thing to you. So let's go ahead and just say I random. So we are going to have the I random interface coming in right here, and then we implement this interface. So now we have this interface, and what I'm going to do is that I'm going to have something like private some kind of init, and I say random number, and then what I'm doing is that we want to create in some kind of constructor for this. So we're going to say public random service, random number service here, and then we are going to do it like this. So in here, what we do is that we say random number is called to, because we want to generate. So we bring in this random number, so random, and then in here what we want to do is that we want to pass it in to the next. So what we want to do is that we want to generate number from 1 to 200, and then let's add a +1 in here so that we just keep on generating. And when it happens that we want to get random number here to return the random number for us. So let's see, return this. So basically this is it. Let's save that, and then with a timestamp, it's also very easy. Let's go and create a timestamp service also here. So we are going to also create a timestamp service here. So let's say timestamp. So let's bring the interface. Say I timestamp here, and then let's implement this interface also. So with this interface, we are also going to create in some kind of constructor. So I'm going to say public timestamp service here. And inside here, what I want to do is that I want to go in here like what we did for the random number. I want to have private read only, and we say datetime. So datetime timestamp here. So when we come here, we can then assign the timestamp to something. Okay, so because we want to generate the timestamp, and then we see that generate datetime now. Okay, so when it happens like that, what we basically want to do, we can delete this to make the code more concise. Say public datetime right here, and then we see that get, because the interface that we wanted to implement here, let's bring it back. So this is the name of the interface. Let's paste that one in here, or let's clean this one up. So let's check the name of the interface very well. Is that, so it's get timestamp. So let's go ahead. Then when we get that, what we want to do is that we want to basically return in timestamp like that. So this is basically what we want to do. Let's check the user session interface too. We want also return in some kind of user session. So it's a user session service. So this is also going to implement the interface of user session. User so session right here, which is coming from here, and then it has some kind of let's implement the interface. So we have this one also here. So I'm going to also say that private, because we are going to generate in some kind of random string. So let's say string of some kind of user ID, or session ID. And in here, let's create in some kind of constructor. So we see that public users can bring in the user session service like this right here. And what I want to do is this, and then we do this, and then we see that user ID here is equal to, let's bring in our $sign here, and then what we want to do is that section, right? So that we see what we are doing. Section in here, let's make it section, and then what we want to do is datetime dot ut now dot text, right? Text. Okay, good. This is what we want, and then let's do this. Okay, so basically the constructor is saying that so we are getting some kind of an error. Let's check in here. Okay, good. So now what we need to do is that we just want to return in, so public string here, and what we want to do is that we want to return this user ID coming in, and still this is saying that we should have a return type, which we need to look at. Okay, so we are making a mistake here. Okay, so let's check here. We need to add it should be user services there. So now we have these services created. Let's go to the program.cs here, and then let's start the magic. Before we do that, let's go ahead and create in controller. So let's create in controller so that we can then make an API calls to this. So I'm going to create a controller, and I'm going to give it a name, lifetime controller here. And what we want to do is that we want to bring in this to tell ASP.NET Core that this is a kind of controller. So we have this, and we need to go in and bring in all the interfaces. So we say private read only. First I time stamp, right, which is this. We then go ahead and say private read only. Private read only. It's a I user section, right? So, and then the second one we need is that we need to also bring in private read only. iGUI, we also have the iGUI service, and then we also need private irandom number here. So we have all of this, and we need to create in constructor for of them. So I'm going to say public here live controller, and then what's happening is that we give them constructor. So we have in the constructor in. So that is it. It sounds good. So now let's go and create in some kind of HTTP get, because we are going to make in some kind of a get request to get this. So I'm going to say public get. Then what we are doing here is that we just want to return in okay, and then inside the okay we say that return in new, and then the new is going to take in all of these things. So let's make sure to add this. So first of all, we're going to see that the timestamp right here, the timestamp, we probably want to see that it's called to iService timestamp right here, and then when we do that we get timestamp. So this will give us the timestamp, right? And then the section, right? So section right here, the section is also going to let's have the I user section, and then we see that get section ID, we call this, and then the random number. So random number right here, random number, let's spell it well, random number, is coming in caps. So random number is called to, let's go to the random number service right here and see that get random number. And then the last one is the GUI. So the GUI is called to GUI service right here, and then we see that get GUI ID. So basically this is what we want in our controller. So now let's get to the magic section where we need to understand how AddScoped work. So if we want to make this service available to our ASP.NET Core, dependency container, what we need to do is that we need to using some kind of interfaces. Let's say we need to coming up with some dependency injection. So in the ASP.NET Core, we only have 3 services, or we need to have 3 methods or interface that you can use, which is AddTransient, AddSingleton, and AddScoped. So we are going to learn how this one works, and the goal is that let's learn in real time. So the first one is that when we add something in scope, how does it work? So what we are saying is that the scope work. So we are saying that scope lifetime service are created once per request. So I'm going to show you how it works. And then when we talk of transit, we are saying that the transit lifetime service are created each time they are requested. And this lifetime work best for lightweight or stateless service. Singleton lifetime service are created the first time they are requested for when the configuration service is running, So if you specify an instance, then their subsequent requests will be using the same instance, right? So we are going to learn how this one works. So first of all, in our application, we have some services that we want to register. So let's go ahead and then let's register them. So the first one is the random number. We want to use Transit for this. So let's start from the Transit and learn how it works. So we see that add service here, and we are going to say that add Transit. So, and what we want to do is that we want to bring in our I. What we want to do is that we want to bring in our I random. Let's see, I random. Oh, random. So I random service here. Then you see that I random number service is saying that let's give in the service properly. So we are going to register this one as Transit. So we basically then have it here. So this random number is Transit. So now when we are making a request, we are expecting the random number to come in the Transit form. So we understand this. So let's register the other services, all of them here, and then let's see how it works. So what we are doing is that we have random number, in which we are saying that is Transit. We have Singleton, which we are using our timestamp for that. We have scope here, which we are using the user section for that. So basically we have all the three here, and then the last one is the GUI. We can then change it when we run the application. So let's run and then make an API request and see. So now I've opened my Postman. So we are going to use Postman for this. And one thing is that we are going to make a request and see how things work. So I'm going to paste in this controller here, and then I'm making an API call. So when we make an API call like this, so now you see we are getting some response. And take note of this. When we make another request, you see number is changing. Number is changing. GUI is changing. Session is changing. By timestamp is not changing. Because why? When we go back to our application here, when we go back, let's go back. You see that random number here is what we call Transit. So random number is Transit. So anytime we make a request, it gives us a new number. Anytime we make a request, the Transit is giving us a new number. So, but when we make a request to the user section here, which is also scope, right? It's also scope. By timestamp here is what we call the Singleton, right? Singleton, right? Singleton. How you mention it. So the Singleton, trying to help us is stay constant. It's not changing. So when we make a request, what comes in first is what shows. So let's go and make sure that we make the random number to also Singleton. Let's see that the random number right here. Let's change that and see that add. Let's see Singleton, right? Okay, let's see Singleton like this. So we have changed this. Let's run our application again and go back to. So now the random number, what we are expecting is that we should have one number when it shows. So you see that we have only this number showing. when we make more requests, the number is not showing. So in this case, when you have a service that want to create in one instance and you use it for the application lifetime, this is what you use the singleton, right? Or singleton. That is one thing you use. They use the singleton to do that. And the second thing is that the scope and transit work in the way of anytime we make a request, you see that we are getting a new something. The GUI is showing. We have new GUI showing. We have new section showing. So if you take a look at it, when we make a request, you can see that those are changing. But the one that we are saying that is singleton is not changing. So this is how this dependency injection work in ASP.NET Core. I will make sure that the code is available. You can also take the code, go through and understand this so that you know where to use it. So now you know that if you have some kind of a service and then you wanted to generate an instance of, one instance for the lifetime, you are going to use singleton, right? And then if you want to have something that keep on giving us a new instance whenever we make a request, you know that you are going in for something like AddScoped or AddTransient. But AddTransient, let's now change this to, so now this is AddTransient. Let's change the user section to AddTransient. So AddTransient right here. So now the user service and the GUI is all AddTransient. And let's change the this random number to scope. So AddScoped right here. Process service AddScoped. So we have this, and then let's change the time stamp to also to scope. So we're going to say that AddScoped right here. So we also have this AddScoped. So now let's run the application. So now let's make a request. So you can see now each one is changing. You can see we are getting different. So the timestamp is changing, the random number is changing anytime we make a request. But if this is singleton, right, it means that we only have some kind of constant instance. When we make the request, it's going to give us an instance that will be using in lifetime of the application. So that is it. So one thing that I would say is that in a section or when you are using it, there is some kind of recommendation on where to use stuff. So if you want to add a scope, the scope sometimes used in the database context, or maybe you have some kind of unit work operation that must complete in a single transaction, right? So that is one thing. And we are saying that the transit itself service that format string, right? So the service provide unity method. So it helps us to also get some kind of instance whenever we make a request. So it's good that you will learn how to use this, right? So we say that transit is give us a new instance. So it give us a new instance. Scope, same instance. So in the scope of giving the HTTP request, we are saying that it gives us the same instance across different HTTP requests. It gives us a new instance. So singleton, same instance across. So something that you need to take note of. Is very, very nice. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel for more content on .NET, Azure, and Microsoft technology. So thank you for watching. Cliff Tech.